coming. Yeah, we keep it coming to the spiral. Oh yeah, we keep it coming. Yeah, keep it coming to the spiral. And I know I'm gonna keep it 100. So grateful for the life I live.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Your Guide on Ghana. Today, I want to highlight some of the positive things, a couple of positive things that have been happening in Ghana during this pandemic. One particular story that really caught my eye a few days ago was the one of a 95-year-old World War II veteran who is doing his part to raise money for PPE to be given to people across Africa. Now, as you know, personal protective equipment, there were shortages at the beginning of the pandemic. Some places there still are shortages, and people are working hard to try to find ways to get the personal protective equipment, PPEs, especially to the frontline healthcare workers. Now, this World War II vet, 95 years old, his name is John Hammond, and he walks 2 miles every single day so that he can raise money towards this cause. He is being supported by the Guba Foundation, and I am putting the link below the description of this video so that you can click the link and you can do your part to help support this man in what he's doing to contribute to this pandemic. I think it's absolutely, remarkable that he is walking 2 miles every day at the age of 95. He clearly has the strength to do so. So watch this clip about John Hammond, the 95-year-old veteran here in Ghana, and what he's doing for his part, to play his part in the fight against COVID-19.
I'm Joseph Hammond, 95-year-old Second World War veteran. I fought in the war which ended 75 years ago. Now we are faced with another invisible war, COVID-19, and inspired by what Colonel Moore did in Britain to raise funds for the frontline workers. I've also decided to do the same thing, to walk 2 miles a day for 7 days to raise funds for vulnerable veterans and the frontline workers, all involved, to kick away COVID-19 from Africa.
Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that Ghana has done its part to try to make sure that people on the front line have personal protective equipment when they are treating patients or potential patients with COVID-19. They have been manufacturing their own PPE in this country. The factories have completely shifted gears. So companies like Sleek Garments have completely changed over from making clothing that's being shipped internationally to creating PPE that will be delivered to people working on the front line. So I think it's wonderful and it's commendable that businesses right here in the country are taking the opportunity to do their part, play their role, and do things that will help in the fight against this pandemic. So here's a clip of one of the factories that is manufacturing PPE in Ghana, and when the Vice President made a visit to that manufacturing plant.
I'm very, very happy to be here today. Today we are seeing what Ghanaian ingenuity and industry is about. In response to the need for personal protective equipment for our healthcare workers, the President directed that we have these key PPEs, the personal protective equipment, produced in the country. The Minister for Trade and Industry, Honorable Alan Koyot Sherman Ting, took up this challenge and pushed to have 5 major companies take up the production of key PPEs in the country.
We have about 18,000 gowns and then about 11,000 scrubs that have been produced. But yeah, by the 5 companies. But as we ramp up production, I mean, these numbers will grow exponentially. And you can see that the quality of the product is very high. And the fabric that has been used, incidentally, is also local fabric, but it's not just any fabric. I mean, this fabric is specially produced by Japan Textiles Limited, which is now Voltastar Textile Limited. And then it moves into Akosombo Textiles Limited and then GTP. And then they take it through what they call a process of mercerization. And then you get this fabric. So this is very high quality fabric.
And these are some of the stories that don't always get highlighted on international media. Largely, international media hasn't talked very much about what's been happening in Africa and African countries. They've largely been ignored. You might see a little blip about it, and then that's all you hear. It's like there's overload talking about U.S. Politics and what's happening in the United States with respect to the pandemic. And we heard a lot about Italy in the early days with all the things they were going through. And then we heard them saying that there's going to be bodies all over Africa, is what Melinda Gates had said initially, that she had a fear that there were going to be people dying in high numbers. But the African countries, many of them have done very well. Many of them have been able to do things to contain the virus, to slow the spread of the virus, do a lot of contact tracing, especially here in Ghana. They've done a lot of contact tracing and isolating people, treating people to make sure that you are actually getting the people who have tested positive, whether they have symptoms or they don't have symptoms. And then Senegal, I saw a story on Al Jazeera about what they've done with respect to having a $1 test kit to test people for the virus. And I know that I've seen people sharing the clip from Al Jazeera about that. And I think it's fantastic that people are sharing it. Unfortunately, I haven't seen that story in other international media outlets. That's fine. I mean, they're ignoring what's happening here. I just pray that African countries continue to do the work that they're doing to keep things contained and to keep the spread from going too far. Because the entire continent, the case count is far less than some of the single countries around the world have had. And with deaths tend to be low in most countries in Africa. It is Northern Africa countries and South Africa that have a tendency to have a little bit of a higher numbers. But I also think that's reflective of travel, because more people internationally travel as tourists to Northern Africa, so like Egypt, Algeria, Morocco, and then South Africa, of course. So I just wanted to, say a few things to commend people on the continent for the things that they're doing in their support of what's happening right now, and I hope that it continues. If you have any comments, any questions, anything to add, please do put it in the comments, and I do my best to respond to everyone, as I always say. Don't forget to click the subscribe button so that you don't miss any of my uploads in the future, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for watching.
And I know I'm gonna keep it 100. So grateful for the life I live, grateful for the fishes I see. I'm so grateful for the love I'm receiving. love are the only thing. Only for man a prefer. No need to stress.